Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the show. Time now to get to your questions about a topic that is so incredibly interesting. It affects adults and children alike. We're talking about concussions in the NFL and the lawsuit that attorney Larry Wiedemann here has filed on behalf of Saints season ticket holders. And we have lots of questions from our viewers. The first one comes to us from Jack. He writes in, he says, is there a precedent for Mr. Wiedemann's lawsuit on behalf of Saints season ticket holders?
Well, there's no specific precedent. There have been ticket holder suits throughout the NFL for various reasons, so it's not the first suit. It's the first suit, I believe, where we contend that the ticket holders have been victimized by the penalties that have reduced the product that they paid for, and that it's the first time, to my knowledge, that the NFL has put such penalties, in essence, depriving the Saints of the coaching staff, management staff, players, and instead of fines. And that directly affects the ticket holder. And
it's been filed against the NFL and Roger Goodell. You filed the lawsuit and you're waiting for a response, is that right?
Right. We filed it and they asked for an extension, which is not unusual. And so they haven't responded yet, but sometime in January they will respond.
Well, Larry and John, we were talking about this not very long ago, so let's let our viewers know we're not trying to scare people with this information. Very, very important. We love sports. Sports, people love sports, and we want people to continue playing sports, but people
we don't want to turn all these children into couch potatoes. We want them to play sports, just play safely and learn how to watch out for signs and symptoms of concussions. Safety is paramount. Play your sports. Well, Larry, why don't you comment on that?
Well, we all drive, but none of us drive or should not drive without seat belts.
Right. There you go.
And that's a protection. I played 8 years of football, high school and college, not professional. My two boys played football. I think it's a great sport, and we're not trying to scare anybody. We just have to be cautious and wear a seatbelt. Take the advice and follow the safety rules.
If you let your child ride a bicycle, put on that helmet. That's a no-brainer. Because if your child falls off the bicycle, that helmet could save the child's life, could avoid a serious injury. It's not some newfangled concept that some crazy person thought up. It's what the safety experts and actually moms and people with common sense have said for a long time. Just use common sense.
And speaking of moms, Michelle writes in, and her question is, would I have legal action if my son suffers a concussion during a football game and his coach doesn't diagnose it and remove him from the game?
Well, I'm not advocating filing lawsuits, but obviously if a coach, following the Louisiana Concussion Act, does not comply with what's specified, to report symptomology to parents and to make known what happened to their son, he could potentially have some exposure.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because we said we wanted to get into a little bit more detail about this. For all of those of you out there who are not familiar, there is a law on the books. It's called the Louisiana Youth Concussion Act. And so it specifically outlines some requirements of coaches and teams when it comes to kids who are injured. Let's talk a little bit in detail about this act and what it says and what parents need to know about it.
Well, it requires the coaches and to inform the parents and schools about injuries that occur, because a parent has no way of knowing if they're in a practice or in a game they're not attending, whether their son was rendered unconscious or hit where he was dead. His bell rung, or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
So they have no way of knowing. So the responsibility from that standpoint is on the coaching staff. They also require that the parents sign a document showing that they have been advised of the potential of concussion and what to look out for. So it's a dual effort, but the question is, like all acts, how is it going to be enforced? And as I said earlier, just the NFL passed a similar act, appointed a commission 10 or 15 years ago, and nothing came of it. Now we got all this concussion
and now
lawsuit.
we have this.
Yeah.
And what's your best guess? I mean, do you think parents really know that this even exists?
Well, if the school's doing their job, then they certainly ought to know. And again, this is Louisiana. We do some things right. We do a lot of things wrong. Let's hope that they are doing their job on this. But I want to add to what Larry said a minute ago. Some parents out there say, you know what, if my kid gets hurt and he bangs his head, but he gets up and he says he feels fine, he wants to play, you know, that's one thing. But parents need to have knowledge. We all know, many of us know an actor. He's one of my favorite actors, Liam Neeson. His wife was skiing. She skied right into a tree. She banged her head. Okay? She said, I'm fine. Don't need, if I'm remembering my facts right, she banged her head. She said, I feel fine. She had a small bleed in her head from a concussion. Didn't want to go to the hospital. Didn't want to do anything. She died later on that day. This is world famous actor Liam Neeson. If your son, your child, hits her head, maybe falls off the jungle gym, and the coach, who's not a medical doctor, says, you know what, you're fine. Let's not worry about it. Let's not even tell your parents. Your child has a small bleed in his head because that jello soft brain hits the hard skull. Parents need to know this. Let the parent make the terrible decision not to go get that brain looked at by a doctor if it's been hit in a hard hit that knocked the child unconscious or dazed. Let the parent be the one to make the decision. I'll take him to the hospital. Please take him to the hospital. But don't let the coach make that decision. So save that person's life maybe, or at least let the doctor say, you know what, you're lucky. Everything's fine.
Right.
We ran the test. Your child is fine. Lucky you. Your child is fine.
Err on the side of caution.
But that act, this act, Act 314, okay, that is there for a very good reason. Don't let a coach, a volunteer coach who's not medically trained, be the one to say, I don't have to tell nobody. That's why it's there. Do the right thing. Let the parents know.
It's
That's
important.
what's there.
It's important. Okay, our next question comes to us from Tracy, and she says, horse racing was the most popular sport in this country at one time and boxing at another. Do you see football ever going away or becoming less popular because of how dangerous it is?
No, I think that football is here to stay, and you only have to look at the attendance at football games throughout the country. I don't think that's going to change. I think that what will change is that, as you noticed recently, if a football player, NFL player, gets knocked out or gets his bell rung, he doesn't go back in the game. That was not the case in the past. So I think that we're seeing remedial remedies that are going to maybe help. But this is a sport of contact, and violent contact in many cases. So, and I think that's what spectators have come to like.
Yeah.
They don't want to see people get injured, obviously, but they want to see people playing the sport as it is a violent sport. And I'm not trying to scare people. You know, that's. I think it's here to stay, and I think it just to make it safer.
And we're going to have to let that be the last word. Attorney Larry Wiedemann, thank you so much for being on the show with us today. We have learned a lot, and of course, we are going to continue to follow the lawsuit. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And we thank you for being with us as well. We want to remind you that the December 8th election is coming up, but you can vote now early through Saturday, December 1st, so be sure to go out there and vote. You can go to any registrar of voters office in your parish.
Thanks to trial attorney Larry Wiedemann. Thanks to all of you for watching and continuing to support our show, and on Twitter, on Facebook, and for sending your great questions. Remember to visit jrpoa.com to watch whole episodes of the show, and we hope to see you next week.